Hey, Jay, did you pretty much just accomplish what you wanted to do, kind of fill in around the fringes? Could you kind of take us through what your goals were?
Yeah, I mean, I think we looked at a lot of different, like a lot of different scenarios here in the last few weeks, and ultimately, I think getting to the bullpen, getting a left-handed bat that could be part of our lineup, and then another professional hitter with Garrett Cooper, and getting some more, a guy in with Sean Reynolds that from a upside pitching standpoint, has a chance to help out either this year or down the road. I think we checked some boxes here in the last few days.
Does Hill strictly slot into the rotation, and how might that play out?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Rich, obviously he's been starting, and I think with our team right now, we've got a need, in the rotation. So I think, here in the short term for sure, he'll go into the starting rotation. Obviously, we've got Michael Waka potentially coming back, and some different things that we may see. But we felt like just getting another starter, getting somebody that can be part of the rotation, giving Bob and Ruben an opportunity to kind of look at the rotation, give some guys proper rest here, as we go forward in the next 2 months. He's obviously got the great curveball, and he's done this a long time, pitched in a lot of different pennant races and postseason situations, and I think we just felt like for our need right now in the rotation, he was a good fit for us.
AJ, what convinced you, given kind of where you are in the standings and where this team is in relation to the other wildcard contenders, to go ahead and look to add so aggressively?
Yeah, I mean, I think we looked at all the different scenarios. I think, I think the biggest thing really just kind of seeing what the market was, what was out there from trade scenarios. And we really were, we had attractive players and guys that, very accomplished players. But, if we're going to move off this club, we set certain marks that we were talking about. We never got compelled to really do anything from that standpoint. And then obviously looking at our team, we feel like our team is, we've got a team that we think can win, and if we were able to add to the club, give us a good chance here in the next 2 months to it's going to be a good pennant race, and look up and play into October. So I think we factored everything in. We had a lot of conversation about what was best for for this group here, for this year, for the future. But ultimately, we just felt like the deals were more, deals that made more sense to give our team a chance here going forward, solidify some spots that we feel like can help us play in October. And I felt like that was the best course that was the best course for us here over the last few days.
This is kind of an abstract question related to that, but how much did the market shape the strategy, and how much did the strategy just tie to like where you guys are and what you guys think you can still accomplish this season?
Yeah, they were both. I mean, they were both tied together. I mean, that was a lot of our conversation. Obviously, I think from our standpoint, like I said, I think a lot of teams too, like when it comes to rental players, currently it's teams are pretty conservative on that front. Even with impactful rental players. So, I think we weren't just going to make moves to make moves. Whether that was on the buy side or on moving our players. We think we have a good club, and I think we showed it. I think you see it in terms of this past weekend against a good Texas Ranger team. You see it with the run differential. We've been able to play well, at different points in time over the first half of the season. We just got to be more consistent. We've got to we think we're more than capable, and that's what the next 60 games is about.
We'll go to Dennis Lynn.
Hey, AJ, you're talking about some of the things that factored in. I know you're talking more about the returns that you were looking at for potential trades, but how much did just sweeping the Rangers past week and kind of factor into it? Because you are kind of looking at, I guess, a daily math equation here with what you need to do to potentially get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the past weekend, you factor it in a little bit. It didn't have a big, we didn't weigh it a ton in terms of our decisions. I think we know our team, our group, we know what we're capable of, and if we were 2-1 versus 3-0, we weren't going to drastically go one way or the other. I think from our standpoint, it was more about just doing our homework, getting into the market, kind of examining each situation in terms of acquiring players or moving players, and ultimately felt like, these were deals that we liked. We felt like they were deals that were, I think enable us to continue building our farm system, which We have, I think, from the conversations with other teams here in the last few weeks, you could tell some, teams like our players. And, I think from that standpoint, we were able to keep, a lot of the strength of the system and then add to our club and give our big league club an opportunity to play into October.
It looked like there were some pretty good deals out there for even rental pitchers and rental players that were sold by teams that were selling. How did you weigh that versus the potential of getting like a 4th round or 5th round comp pick if Josh Hader and Blake Snell and walking in the offseason?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we understand, like, hey, there's you obviously have the ability to make trades and add to players for your future. We just never really got anything that was that compelling for us on that standpoint. So I think from our deal, we were open-minded. I think very prepared as a group and as a front office group. But ultimately, there wasn't anything really on that side that was last minute or really over the course of the last few days that pushed us strong in that direction. It came down to, again, like a team that we have belief in, and then also some deals that we liked on the ability to add to the bullpen and to the bench.
We'll go to MArty Caswell.
AJ, how many first basemen do you currently have on the team right now, and how involved was Peter Seidler, the business side, and what you guys were going to do at the deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I think from our standpoint, I'd constantly talk to Peter and update him. He has a lot of trust and faith in the baseball operations team, and but you go in and update him on kind of, hey, this is where we're at. This is some of the big picture thoughts, and this is what we're looking at. These are the possibilities, and pick his brain and also basically get together with him in terms of direction and where things set up. In terms of like the roster, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing we were looking at, we have, feel like we have a very good defensive ball club. We have one of the, maybe as good as defensive team as there is in the game right now. And I think the one thing we've been, consistent looking for from an offensive standpoint, the DH production this year, the ability to get a big hit with runners in scoring position. I think we wanted to make sure we got a few bats there with Man Choi and Garrett Cooper that can deliver that and, continue to push the offense in the right direction.
And for you, how challenging was this deadline for you compared to the previous ones when this team is under 500, has been that way for most of the season and really hasn't found a way to go on a roll?
Every year is kind of like every year presents like, different challenges and different situations. I didn't think it was really, again, it wasn't any more challenging this year from that standpoint. I think just, you look at the different deals that are out there, the different possibilities, try to be as prepared as you can be and go from there. So, I mean, I think from our standpoint, again, I think we feel like we shored up some holes and some needs on the club, and we're hoping that makes a difference here going forward.
And last thing, I know Manny said he took off his GM hat. Musgrove was outspoken about wanting to keep Snell and Hader. Did you hear from any of your players during this process?
Yeah, I mean, I think every once in a while, I think so. Everybody handles it differently. Some guys, kind of like, they back off. Other guys will weigh in and let myself or Josh or others kind of give their sense of, who we need to go acquire, who we need to go get, or kind of the state of the union with the team. I think the cool part is like the players in that room, they believe, so I think, I think that's always, that's kind of where things start. They believe in each other. We got to the LCS last year. I think they feel like we're, we came off of a good weekend, and, I think they understand what's at stake and what we're capable of. And, I think you kind of felt that in some conversation with the players the last few weeks.
So back to Snell and Hader, now that you have retained them, are you looking at trying to extend them before the end of the season, or is that something that's going to wait until next season, after the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always open to different ideas and thoughts, but most likely it's going to be something that's going to be, an off-season question and conversation. I think the focus right now is basically going to be, getting to the postseason. I think with Josh, one of the best closers in the league, Blake Snell as well as any pitcher in the game here the last few months. And I think really it's going to be all about how do we get to the postseason right now. That's what I anticipate here with those guys over the course of the next 8 weeks or so.
And with the impact of losing the television money, has there been any discussion about how much money you will have to spend in the offseason? Are you going to be able to sign players the way you've been signing them?
Yeah, I mean, I think we Eric, myself, Peter, constantly talking and updating on the different situations with our club and franchise and throughout the game. But yeah, I mean, I think from we understand that, hey, we get great support from our fan base. We have a team that played into the deep into the postseason last year. I think we'll have a lot of conversation more so when we get through the season and we get into the off season about what it looks like. We sit down at the end of each off season together as a group and start to line out, hey, what the budget looks like, what may be out there, what the possibilities are. This year won't be any different. Next we expect to put a competitive team on the field next year with some really talented players.
Hey, AJ, I mean, obviously last year was a bunch of superstar type players. This year seems like a lot of guys who are smart, veteran, good clubhouse kind of guys. How much did, for lack of a better word, chemistry play into the types of guys you brought in at this deadline?
I think a little bit. I mean, we're constantly, we'll always talk about, the fit and makeup and, how the pieces may fit together and kind of how the personalities fit together. I think with this, though, it was really about hey, we felt like we needed some starting pitching help and some depth there, and especially Rich being left-handed and, having a ton of experience and been on some really good teams. I think we felt like, hey, we had to shore up the pen, and we looked at, especially from the right side, and we looked at that as well. And then, that kind of first base DH, bench back component, just quality AB. So I think that was the biggest part of our focus was hey, if we're going to continue to fill out this club, those were 3 or 4 areas that we focused on. Obviously, having some veteran guys that have been in the postseason or played the game for a while and have some great experiences, I think that's going to be key here down the stretch as well. But I think it was more about their skill set, how they fit on our current club, and kind of rounding out the team.
AJ, among the guys you got, Barlow is kind of the guy you've got a few guys for the 2023 run, but Barlow has control next year. How important was that, getting a guy that can be a part of this season and next season, and what can we expect? What did you like about him in particular? Obviously, good stuff and good numbers in the past. What did you like about him?
Yeah, and then we tried to sign him actually a few years ago as a 6-year free agent, and I think he obviously made a good decision because he went to Kansas City and he's turned himself into a really quality reliever. I think, the ability to spin the ball, take the ball, be available all the time. He's a really good athlete. He's tough on right-handers. And, I think that's something for us, getting Suarez back with Hader and, getting Nick Martinez into the role he was in last year, kind of getting Luis Garcia right, and then getting another right-hander like Scott. I think you start to see the foundation of a pretty good pen. So I think for all those reasons, we had him as a guy that that we're going to try to talk about, and eventually, honestly, just a few minutes before the deadline, we're able to make the deal.
How do you view giving up guys like Jackson Wolf and Ryan Weathers, and kind of what it does to your pitching depth maybe after the season going forward into the future, considering how much control they had?
Yeah, no, I think that's an area that we honestly feel like in the system is it's really an area where becoming a strength in terms of we feel really good about some of the pitching prospects that are progressing through the system, and I think they're gonna. Again, in our estimation, we have some guys that may take some real steps here, have taken some steps in the last few months. And, I think, guys that, as we get into the off season, may factor in for us here, sooner rather than later. So I think that it's never easy to trade left-handers. It's never easy to trade, guys that we feel like can pitch in the big leagues and give us some real depth. It's never easy to trade pitching. But, getting back Sean Reynolds and then also, having some guys in the system that have taken some steps and some strides that we feel like have some real ceiling. I think for all those reasons, ultimately we decided we were able to put Jackson and Ryan in the deal. Not easy, but those guys have done well for us. Jackson, seeing his progression this year and pitching for us in the big leagues, I think those are tough decisions. And Ryan coming to the big leagues at 20 in the postseason and kind of being a part of different really quality big league teams the last few years. That's not the easiest thing for a young player trying to break in. Those are not easy calls for us to make, but ultimately we know we have some quality pitching in the system as well, and that was all part of our decision process.
AJ, what do these moves mean for Matt Carpenter? I believe he's still on your roster at this moment. Are you going to make a move there, or is he still going to be on your roster going forward?
I think I think I think with our 26-man roster, obviously when you make a few of these moves, I think that's kind of the next step, sitting down with Bob and Josh Stein and Ruben and a few of the people here and just making sure, hey, this is the game plan for the first thing is for tonight's game and tomorrow's game. And then, we'll get to that a little bit more here as we get into, the conversation a little later this evening and tomorrow about what it looks like for the next few weeks, kind of what some different roster constructions look like for the next couple of months.
What do you expect there with him? Because with the new moves there, it looks like he's not going to have a place in this team. And what do you take away from just the decision to give him 2 years and $12 million for guaranteeing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think with Matt, I think obviously he has a player option for next year. And again, like I think there's I think we see opportunity where Matt specifically, he's on this roster and he's contributing. There's a lot of different ways he can contribute. Obviously, with his bat is the most important way. But again, those would be conversations that I have with the staff here over the course of the next few days, and we'll adjust accordingly.
And the last thing for me, I know you always say you're going to listen on whoever it is, no matter how valuable they are. But did you find that teams kind of knew not to ask you about Ethan Sells?
Yeah, no, he's again, every year at the deadline, you kind of find out about your players. I think Ethan's obviously opened a lot of eyes in the game of baseball here just in a short period of time. And I think again, he was somebody that we've made known both internally and then in any conversations with teams that he's a part of our future, and he's done well here this year, and it's been fun to watch his progress. So I think the industry definitely recognizes that, and I think we heard that loud and clear the last couple of weeks.